Great humility and appreciation, and with a great sense that they belong to my ancestors, especially the women in my family. Thank you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. I wanted to talk with you today about a little Black history. No, it's not February. It's December 20th. And that's what's on my mind. Black history. You know, we do these Black Wall Street Awards. We have a big event coming up on Saturday, January 4th, first Saturday of the new year. And the goal is to celebrate the achievements of this year, 2024, and to discuss our agenda for the upcoming year. This news outlet, BeMoreNews.com and Black USA, for the past 22 years, actually Black USA was founded 4 years ago in the middle of the pandemic. We needed a way to cover the news amidst the pandemic and mask and all of that. We've attempted to counter and inform. Counter the mainstream press and inform you about our own story, our own news from our own perspective. This is my latest book, Journalpreneur. Might want to pick up a copy. Have some pictures in this book, unlike previous books. Some of the work that we've done. But the Black Wall Street Awards, it started all in 2011, thanks to Peggy Morris, Four Sisters Network Incorporated. And we celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals, as well as the people who support them regardless of race. It started off as a business networking event. Let me tell you why. Because with a new website, this was 2002, we knew that there was no way Be More News could ever have any sustaining power if we didn't have a relationship with the community. If we didn't do activities in the community. You could have a website, you could have a newspaper, you could have a radio show, talk show, TV show. But if there's no engagement with the community, then what do you really have? So we've always sought to maintain a strong tie, strong connection with the community. And so it's not always been just Black Wall Street Awards, but we've had talent shows, political forums, especially as it relates to running for mayor. It began here in what was then the 44th district. It's now the 40th district. We do events around the city, preferably at Black-owned establishments. Back then we had Britain's, Downtown Southern Blues. They were all in the same building consecutively. And then it was Next Phase Cafe. 3 black businesses were in that establishment. And one thing we learned was that was a huge establishment to keep going. Everybody wants a building, everybody wants a restaurant, but let me tell you, running a restaurant is hard, very difficult. You're constantly counting your inventory, constantly working to bring in new people, constantly monitoring to make sure nobody's stealing. And having worked in the restaurant business, I just had a long time empathy for restaurateurs. Young man asked me last night, "Hey, Doni, you know where they're hiring?" I said, Chipotle. People got to eat every day. Anybody can, just about, can dish up some rice or cook the chicken or work on the assembly line or work in the back. There's always something you can do. So yeah, they're always hiring. Fast food never dies. This is America. I was in Africa back in 2006. We don't know how good we've got it. There are no fast food spots on the corner in Africa like they are here. And not that fast food is good. I am not at all saying that. But we're talking commerce. We're talking business. So anyway, we started with business networking events. We called it the Harambe Dinner Club. I must thank Charlie Duggar. Many of you around town know Charlie Duggar, icon. This is the man that first took me on the radio around 1980. This is 24, so that's what, 44 years. I've been doing radio most of my life, and I love it. Mary Carter Smith over there at WEAA, that's the station Charlie took me on. She implored us that if you're gonna do do radio, that you lift up your people. There's some who go on these airwaves, and instead of building up the people, it's a constant tearing down of the people. We want to build up our people. We want to share information. We want to encourage. We want to help empower. I cannot empower you. I can help empower you. I cannot empower you because it takes 2. A person has to want to be empowered. It's like helping a drug addict. A person has to want to change. So we use these platforms, Black USA, BeMoreNews.com. Thursday nights we're on Mike Nice's Hip Hop Chronicles at WEAA. And we have a television show. Our next show will be up in a couple of days. Wow. This Sunday, the 22nd. But we do these events, these Black Wall Street Awards in the community, preferably at Black-owned restaurants, if not Black-friendly restaurants, Black-friendly hotels. I remember one of our first events at a hotel was at the Hyatt Regency. Mr. Robert Steele was the general manager. How many of you remember Robert Steele? And it was such a pleasure because he was one of I think maybe the only Black general manager in downtown Baltimore. So I'm reminded that although Baltimore is majority Black, 66% Black, we have to, it's still a struggle. We still have to work to establish ourselves, to establish our presence. And it has to be for all facets of the community. It can't be just for young adults. It can't be just for older adults. It has to be for everybody. It has to be for youth. It has to be for seniors. BeMoreNews.com has to have something for everybody. You know, one of the things I've talked about this week on the show is how leadership in the Black community must pass the ball. People may not like it, but I'll say it. Mark Morial has been at the National Urban League for 20 years. I don't know a lot, but damn, 20 years. I thought we were supposed to work ourselves out of a job. Yeah, I said it. 20 years. I mean, can't nobody else be the president of the Urban League? We have to raise these questions. No wonder our young people are tired. No wonder when we get a young mayor at City Hall, then the whole cabinet looks young. It's wrong on both ends. If you have all young people, you lack wisdom. If you got all old people, you lack strength and legs. Here in Sandtown, we've made it our business to pass the ball to Tracy Malone. I'm 59. Tracy's about 35. I don't need to be out front anymore. I need to be with the chiefs up on the hill, giving some wisdom, giving some instruction. A lot of times we get in position and we want to hold on to it for life. My God, man, get a life. So the young lady told me years ago when I really did need someone to tell me get a life. Get a life. Because if you've been self-actualized, and this is what I found, if you have found what it is that you love to do and you have done it well, then you have no problem seeing somebody else fly, shine, soar. A lot of times people have not spread their own wings, so there's no way they can really encourage or help empower someone else to spread their wings. But there's an onus for the young and for the seasoned. The seasoned have to pass the ball. Somebody else needs a shot at that. Train up somebody else. Whether it's politics, whether it's the Urban League, whether it's Associated Black Charities, the NAACP. You can't be 70 years old and still holding on to something that you should let a 40-year-old in on. So it takes trust. It takes trusting the next generation, trusting ourselves, knowing that we have groomed the next generation properly. It takes trust. It takes love. It takes faith. It takes working together. Just like a relationship, it takes work. It doesn't just come like that. It takes work. Got to get to know each other. It takes time. Different scenarios. Same with, our leadership. No wonder the young people don't want to hear anything from the older people. They've seen the old people get out there and flounder. Can't blame a Brandon Scott administration for not wanting seasoned people, because they've seen seasoned people get locked up and go to jail for holding the same positions. Can you blame them? What can you teach me? What Jay-Z say, you broke, what you gonna tell me? So we do these Black Wall Street Awards. We celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals, as well as the people who support them regardless of race. To date, we've honored over 2,800 people in 9 U.S. cities: New York, Baltimore, D.C., Richmond, Atlanta, New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, Las Vegas, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. What is Black Wall Street? I'm glad you asked. Black Wall Street is merely your Black economic district, your Black business district. And I assure you, wherever there were Black people, there was somebody. Your great-great-grandmama, my great-great-grandfather, they were doing business. They were doing commerce. Commerce is nothing new. I don't care what they've shown you on mainstream news, on Fox, on any of the local stations. Black people have always, we are the first hustlers. We are the first hustlers. Get a copy of this book. And we've always been creative. In America, Black people invented so many things. I mean, I can give you a long list of inventions by Black people, which is a part of Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street is essentially self-empowerment. Marcus Garvey. How many of you know about Marcus Garvey? Marcus Garvey had the largest organization of any Black people in the world. I know it may seem like I'm jumping around. I just got a lot on my mind in terms of Black history. But Garrett Morgan, Patricia Bath, Alexander Miles, Marie Van Britten Brown, Louis Latimer, Madam C.J. Walker. And don't mention Madam C.J. Walker and you don't talk about her mentor. She had a mentor. You know who her mentor was? Everybody knows about Willie Adams, but do they know about the guy before him? Maggie Turnbow Malone was Madam C.J. Walker's mentor. Annie Turnbow Malone. Before there was a C.J. Walker, Annie was out there doing it. And a millionaire. Challenge is she had a rotten husband that usurped her money, just like we see today. But Annie had colleges. Annie helped empower Madam C.J. Walker. So C.J. saw what was going on and took it to the next level. Her books were a little more stable and more could be reported. But do not ever discount. Everybody knows about Madam C.J. Walker because that's what America has painted. But the person that laid the groundwork, the pioneer, Annie Turnbow Malone, Poros College. And that was the time when black women controlled the black beauty industry. We don't control the black beauty industry. Who dominates the black beauty industry now? And how? How do other people control the black beauty industry? You want to talk about Black Wall Street? Let's talk about that. Mike Randolph. Mike Randolph, come on and join us. I'll put the link in the chat. How did other people come to control the black beauty industry? And this is no slight. We're not talking about hair textures and all of that stuff. I don't want to get into the Chris Rock documentary. It ticked off some black women, but for others, it enlightened us. We don't control the black beauty industry. Annie Turnbow Malone. Turnbow. I know different. T-U-R-N, Turnbow. B-O. T-U-R-N-B-O. Annie Turnbow Malone was the pioneer in the black beauty industry. And it was probably other people. The problem is so much of our history was not documented. And so it's left to be told by people who know bits and pieces. But black women, you should know about Annie Turnbow Malone. Beast. And she had colleges, Poro colleges, or Poros. Let me share a little bit with you. And we use Google to find everything, the parties. Annie Miniver Turnbow Malone was an American businesswoman, inventor, and philanthropist in the first 3 decades of the 20th century. She founded and developed a large and prominent commercial and educational enterprise centered on cosmetics for African American women. And I'm just realizing this. She was born on August 9th. BeMoreNews.com was born on August 9th, 2002. But she got us by 100 years or so, 142 years. Her parents were Robert Turnbow and Isabella Turnbow Malone. And she was married to Aaron Eugene Malone. I think he was the one that stuck her up. Or was it Pope? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Nelson Pope. But she went on. She had colleges. She did real work. Now, over at the National Museum of African American Culture, they've got a story about Annie Malone and Madam C.J. Walker, pioneers. Annie Turnbow Malone and Madam C.J. Walker were pioneers of the African American beauty industry and groundbreaking entrepreneurs. Each woman developed hair care and beauty products, created beauty schools, and launched highly successful businesses that employed hundreds of African American, mainly women, African Americans. Annie was born in 1869 in Metropolis, Illinois, to formerly enslaved parents. Her parents were slaves, and she started a business that hired hundreds of people. Don't tell me what we can't do. They tell me, oh, not everybody's made for college. Cut that crap. We do anything we put our minds. We are brilliant people. Stop putting them limitations on people. I'm not one to buy that. If I see a cat driving up Pennsylvania Avenue, one hand blindfold, turn around backwards, when I see some of the things that we can do, and somebody tells me, oh, not everybody's made for college. Okay, let me tell you something. The same cat that breaks the law end up over to jail. You know what you do over to jail? You go to school. You sit in the classroom and you go to school. So if you can sit in the jail over and go to class because somebody's standing over top of you, know damn well you can do it on your own. We got to stop making excuses. We got a new year coming in, and we need to stop making excuses. Even if you are a carpenter, a plumber, or whatever, you still need to know how to count. We've gotten so, I don't know, we've gotten soft. We move to the county and think we don't have to fight no more. You got to fight. The fight never stops. As long as you black and alive, your fight never stops. This is America. And even if you're in Africa, Africa's colonized. Every country in Africa has neo-colonialism going on. I mean, they got former European powers still up in there taking their goodies every day. So there's a lack of organization. Period. Point blank, period. Tell you a little bit more about Annie Turnbull Malone. Malone not only faced the challenges, she was born From an early age, Malone understood that for African-American women, appearance and grooming represented more than personal style. It could also indicate a woman's class and social standing. She realized that improving hair health, Annie Malone was teaching black women about hair health in the early 1900s. She realized that improving hair health could also have a positive effect on the lives of African Americans. This motivation, along with her early passion for styling her sister's hair, inspired Malone to develop products to help women adapt to a society that judged them based on how they met the American standard of beauty. What is the American standard of beauty? Barbie. Not that she's beautiful to me. That's why they had to come up with the black baby dolls. Somebody was smart enough to realize, hey, we need some black baby dolls for our little girls so that they know that they're naturally beautiful. That you remember Maria Broom on Channel 13 had a bush, Angela Davis with a bush, Eldridge Cleavers, I think it was Kathleen Cleaver, that big bush, and a shotgun. Malone not only faced the challenges of being a black woman in a segregated society, but a businesswoman in a sexist society. Hello, Kamala. Undeterred. And again, I'm reading this from the African American Museum in DC, the new museum. Undeterred, she began experimenting with chemistry. You see that? She's a chemist. Didn't mention college. Necessity, the mother of invention. She established a successful business after developing a line of products that were advertised to help improve scalp health and promote hair growth. Coming out of the days of American slavery, it wasn't like sisters were going to the salon initially. I mean, what I'm getting to is that for those who were enslaved, it wasn't like they could go shopping on Saturdays. It was working from sun up to sundown. It's the one that people kept hair at all. No one cared about them, so they had to figure it out on their own. But that just means that back then, these different peoples from various African nations who all learned English had to bring the nuggets and jewels of information that we had in Africa. We had to bring them here and implement them. I'll tell you, Black people invented a lot of things in this country. Let me tell you a little bit more. Some of these products included scalp preparations and her famous hair grower. After early success in Illinois, she moved to Missouri in 1902 and founded Poro College Company. So I'm proud of Annie Turnbull Malone, and I always talk about it because everybody remembers C.J. Walker. She was fly, saw in New York City, cars, all of that. That's nice. But Annie Turnbull Malone, learn your history. And stop reading and believing everything somebody else tell you. Do your own research. We got to learn our history for ourselves. Be honest. Have you ever heard of Annie Malone, Annie Turnbull Malone? But you heard of Madam C.J. Walker. And I'm not knocking C.J. Walker. I'm just giving you the facts. Before there was a Madam C.J. Walker, there was an Annie Turnbull Malone. Before there was a little Willie Adams in Baltimore, there was a Tom Smith. Before Willie Adams, Willie was a beast. Madam C.J. was a beast, but there was somebody before them. Tom Smith ran the Lucky Numbers, had a hotel in downtown Baltimore on High Street. Lived in the 6600 block of Ricestown Road when there were no Blacks living west of North Avenue, west of Fulton Avenue, or north of North Avenue. We have a phenomenal history that we've been robbed of. And I thank God for all of my teachers, going back to Miss Williams, Miss Parks, Miss Nottingham, and Mr. Williams, down at Matthew Alexander Henson. All of them reiterated to us that Matthew Henson was the first man to reach the North Pole. I don't care what they tell you about Admiral Robert Perry. He had frostbite and couldn't make the trip. But still, they didn't want to give the credit to a Black man. Racist. Revisionists. Early in my life, I'm 59, 6 years old, they was punching us in the face with Black history. Black history is important. It's important for us to know. Michael, get situated. Stop moving around. You ready? How you doing?
Good morning, Donnie. How are you today?
Fired up and kicking. Fired up and kicking.
I heard that, man. So what's on your mind today?
Us knowing our history, man. Look at you making me dizzy, man. You better put that thing still and stop playing.
Hold on, let me get situated here. All right, I'm good.
All right, stop moving around. Where you at?
I'm at my apartment. You know, I moved. I got my new apartment.
In Tampa Bay?
Yeah, it's still in Tampa. It's downtown Tampa.
Are you still a Ravens fan?
Yeah, always for life.
All right, good stuff. So you know about Annie Malone? Annie Malone was on the scene before Madam C.J. Walker. You know anything about her?
No, I learned most of my history from you.
You funny.
Not really. Actually, I did. I've learned so much about Black history. This, and tapping into your shows. I've learned more. Even in Florida, I didn't know about the history of Florida until you shared that information.
Man, you had a...
most people, Yeah, I believe most people in Florida don't know the history. Especially when it relates to Blacks being here and being free, no.
The first Black that came ashore was named Juan Garrido. He was a Spanish conquistador. See, we speak English. So much of what we know is in English. What we fail to realize is that the Spanish, Spain, and Portugal, that's what Christopher Columbus was representing, they were in South America 100 years before the British were in North America. The French were here before the British. Matter of fact, we had to buy Louisiana from the French. That's where the Louisiana Purchase came. So when America, the U.S., the British Americans bought Louisiana, it expanded the country another 2/3. Remember, the country was only the East Coast at first. The West was out there, it was called Indian Territory. But the first known black to come ashore in modern times was a Spanish conquistador named Juan Garrido. And then there was Little Stephen, Little Esteban. And then there was Black Caesar, a pirate. We don't know about the pirates. When we watch Pirates of the Caribbean, because some other person is telling the story, we don't realize that we were all up, we were the story. So there was a pirate in Florida. He hung out in Biscayne Bay. His name was Black Caesar. Don't take my word for it, look it up. We look up everything else. We look up Amazon. We order on Amazon all day long. We better order some Black history. When they caught Black Caesar, he had $6-7 million in silver. And then Florida, the first blacks to go to Oklahoma came out of Florida under the leadership of Chief John Horse. Look up Chief John Horse. I dare you. I wrote a whole book about him. I Am Black Wall Street. Chief John Horse led 200 black soldiers and their families on the Trail of Tears because he fought the likes of Andrew Jackson. He fought him to a draw. And they say, look, put your guns down. We're going to give you this territory out there in Oklahoma. And so that's how the first blacks got to Oklahoma. Not that it was easy, but that was the beginning, if you will, of Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. That's just a little bit of our history. And then, you know, I got to say this. I was talking yesterday so much about it. Mike, how many of us know that Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman come from Maryland?
Didn't know that.
Eastern Shore, man.
I guess that's why I love your show so much, man, because it's all about teaching Black history. Because when you don't know your history, you're subjected to anything. And that's why we run around now like we don't have any power, or that we are just simply athletes, athletic, and that's all we know now. I think that's what this show brings out. We way more than that, plus some.
Annie Malone's parents were slaves. But by 1900, 35 years after slavery, and let's be clear, not all blacks were enslaved. We don't know that. We think every black person was a slave because that's what these dumbass American history books tell us. Told by somebody that don't even know. We know more about the Bible stories than we know about our own story. I think that's a problem. Don't be telling me about Paul and Peter, and you don't know about Annie Turnbull Malone. Matter of fact, I want to know how we got up out of that, how we got through it. I love the Lord, but don't be throwing no religion on me, because I don't even play with religion or religious people. Religion has been used to pimp people.
Talking about history, Donnie, I know you mentioned that Baltimore was the first city of segregation. Is that right?
Home of segregation, going back to 1910 with the ordinance by Mayor J. Barry Mahul, which said that blacks, it was done because Roland Park had just been established, and the white people in Roland Park did not want black people to move in. How many of us knew? Good morning, Michael Haney. How you doing, big brother?
Hey, Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Good morning. Hey, what's up, Mike Randolph down in Tampa? How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. I'm blessed.
I hear you, man. I am.
Mike, did you know that there were black people living in Cross Keys early on?
Yes, I did. I got educated on this show today.
We were living in Cross Keys. Matter of fact, the people in Hose Heights, they wanted Grandison Ho to move to Cross Keys and sell that property right next door to Roland Park. Sell it to this white guy, but Grandison Ho said, hell no. Hey, Mike, we're gonna do our next television show. We're gonna do a square off, but we're gonna do the black square off. And you got a seat on that show. You, Bob the Shield. I haven't figured the rest out. We might need a one. Oh yeah. We need to talk about our story, man.
There's no doubt about that, man. You know, and this is a good season to do it, man. A season of reflection, a season of forgiveness. And sometimes in order to move forward, I was listening to you earlier talk about all that we've done, the fact that sometimes we get stuck in the pass it on mode and we don't engage our young people. I'm part of a couple of organizations where that is absolutely the case, man. You mentioned, you know, how Brandon Scott doesn't want to deal with the old heads because they get stuck in the egotism and the meism, right? I hear so much meism, right, that's out here. And then when you look at what happened with Brandon Scott, it wasn't the old guard that passed that got him reelected. It was that younger generation that refused to listen to the Sheila Dixons and listen to the Firuz and the other ones because they were, you know, they want their own voice, man, you know, and they are a bit better in terms of the we theory of moving things forward, you know. Some of us old timers, man, it's hard to let go from an ego perspective. I watch it every day. It's sad. It's real sad. And we have so much to offer. Like you said, our history, our mentorship, but you know, it's okay to be in the background, man. It's really okay to be in the background.
You know, when I share this video, it's going to be Black History 110, did you know? It's beyond 101. Donnie bring us to 110. It's beyond the 101, and people need to hear this.
You know, Donnie, when I initially started Wake Up Baltimore in 60 Minutes as a result of you, we're about to sunset both of those shows. The last show for Wake Up Baltimore is the 31st, I think. And the last show for 60 Minutes of Black America is January 5th, right? It was with the intention of getting young kids engaged and taking over the show, right? And we did that to a certain extent with 60 Minutes. You know, I approached a few school systems in Baltimore City, which was the initial impetus of the show to highlight the good part of education. We know we have challenges, right? And Booker T. Washington, for instance, middle school, Forest Park High School, their students were initially engaged, but the system couldn't figure out a pathway to give these kids that opportunity even for an hour, right? We're not going to give up on it. But that's what we do. We kindle a fire, we start a fire, and then we allow our younger people, after we teach them how to start a fire, to keep it going, right? And we gotta do a better job because we're sunsetting, man. We're sunsetting. And how do we generationally continue, as you and Michael talked about, the information about our community? Well, we sit and we talk to our people, and that's why our young people don't understand what Martin Luther King did, or Malcolm X, or understand who Marcus Garvey or Tom Smith, etc., because they don't hear us anymore. Because we're so enthralled with our I'm not going to say minuscule, But why is it so important to talk about me? In the context of what? In the context of what? God will determine my worth and value as an individual as he'll determine you and Mike's, man. God will determine that me as a human being was just as significant as Tom Smith, et cetera, et cetera. He may have been on Afro or wherever, but my significance has already been stated, but I can no longer continue to stand in the way. I cannot stand in the way.
Talking about Black history, and this question goes to both Donnie and Mike. What was your first experience with racism, or have you ever experienced racism?
Damn right, I'm from Baltimore.
Yeah. Well, you know, it wasn't bad for me, other than the fact when Joey Shipley and I got into a fight, a white kid from down in Irvington, because we went to Rockland Middle School in Baltimore. And, you know, Joey Shipley and I got in a fight, man, on the bus going home. We just got in a fight. We were just two kids fighting, but he called me a nigga. And so, and everybody, Pam and Jackie, all these are white kids at Rockland, because we came from Evanston Village, they came from Irvington. You know what Irvington down on front, and we all got along. But Joey Shipley pointed out to me the disparity, even though the church I went to on Evanston Avenue outside the village, we were the first Black family there. And we recognized that we were Black and the only ones in there. And the pastor was a civil rights activist in the South, white pastor, Jack Mofflis, right? It wasn't until I went to Boston and I got called the name that Joe Shipley called me every day in Boston, Massachusetts. 5 years removed from John Kennedy, home of Ted Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Mike Dukakis, Tip O'Neill, the bastion of liberalism, Harvard University, Boston University, Boston College, the bastion of liberalism. I got called the name Joe Shipley called me that I only heard once in my life in Baltimore for 18 years. I got called it in Boston every day. Every day. And it had an effect on me. Then I was watching a special on HBCUs the other day, and I was wondering, man, what did I miss? If I had one regret in life, it may be the regret of not, when I went to school in '76 to Boston, not going to an HBCU so I could become more enthralled with who I am. And I learned pretty quickly, but that experience, man, I was almost in tears watching the way that Black people at Morgan and Bowie and Jackson State and Grambling, people that look like us, were able to get great education because they were around people that cared, that lived in the community, teachers, professors, and how they engaged and loved each other, man. I didn't experience that in Boston because the communities were so destroyed, because that was what white people did, conquer and divide.
Tell me about Boyce Mosley at Northwestern.
So you're talking about the former principal at Northwestern, right? And he was a legend at Northwestern. You know, Northwestern High School in Baltimore in '65 or '66 was designed as a school to bridge the gap of racism and segregation between communities. I came from Evanston Village. You had people that came from East Baltimore, North Baltimore, all over. We went to school. Many of my best friends today are Jewish people. I live among the Jews. They taught me so much. Man, I have a high respect for our relationship. As many of us did growing up in Baltimore communities, the Jews had the corner stores in my community in Evanston Village. And, you know, they had a lot to teach me, and I'm going to keep it to me, even though I think they had a lot to teach us, right? For whatever their motives were, because, you know, when you look at how they may have been treated and you look at the Holocaust, etc., there was some oppression and absolutely some suffering on their part. But Northwestern High School was mainly Jews and Blacks and a few whites. And believe me, Jews aren't classified, nor do, if you speak to them, consider themselves white. And so you have these two distinct.
You have African, you have Negroid, Caucasian, Mongoloid. They white. And Judaism is a religion, not a race. Because if you want to get to it, the history of Judaism is African, Ethiopian, East African.
Absolutely. You're right, man. You're absolutely right. That's why.
So we got to know our own history and how our history has been taken from us, twisted, shaken up, and thrown back at us.
Yeah, exactly, man. And you're right, man, because that's why the Jews and the Ethiopians have such a gregarious and good relationship. And when things happened in Ethiopia, famine, etc., the Jews came to the rescue because they identified. And then when you look at the proximity on the map to those two countries, it was almost natural that the Jews considered Ethiopia as their people and Ethiopians considered Jews their people. But like you said, it's a religion, it's not a race. But in terms of the cultures got along very well.
Everybody came to Africa and stole that history, stole the culture, and usurped it. Even down, a friend of your brother and I at Morehouse, Robbie Scott, often talks about Ptolemy, first white pharaoh in Egypt. There was a time when Egypt got conquered. It was initially the people in Egyptian history were jet black. They were black. They were blacker than black. They were under the bed black. But over time, they got lighter and lighter and lighter. That's why you see Elizabeth Taylor playing in Egyptian movies. Well, no, white. Slow down. Everybody want to take our history and whitewash it. Jesus was black. And let me tell you something else. Santa Claus was black. Look it up. St. Nicholas was a black man. You know white people ain't giving you away nothing. Then. Stop playing. They wasn't giving away toys. Donald Trump about to show you what Santa Claus is. He gonna take away everything. If anything, talking about Scrooge, he even take away.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I didn't vote for, and I'm glad we changed the trajectory a little bit because I was waiting just like Scott. I used to do jump rope. I used to play jump rope because double dutch was a great sport, right? It was a sport. I was waiting for the right opportunity to jump in to the conversation as I was looking when Mike joined. I was listening to you early on, and I was looking at your Go Raven Dashiki, right? And so when you look at Donald Trump and I look at what's happening in Congress right now in terms of not being able to pass a bill and government will shut down tonight, I don't know if Joe Biden is no different than Donald Trump, particularly when you see that this man has pardoned these judges that sold kids to prison for profits in Pennsylvania. He pardoned 2 judges that they got life sentences as a result of the atrocious behavior of that powerful position and putting young kids, one of which murdered himself or killed himself because they knew they were in jail for wrong, but they were selling them to these prisons that were designed for profit, and they plead guilty, and Joe Biden just pardoned them. He pardoned them in Texas or Arkansas that gave away the doctor that gave away and was responsible for the death and addiction of thousands of people, black people mainly, with the opioid crisis.
I remember when Joe Biden was vice president, he was talking smack, and people defended him. I say, and black people defend him. I say, you don't know when you've been insulted. I'm insulted. He said the Republicans are going to put you back in slavery. When I look around Baltimore, we've been Democrats all our lives. They are just putting money on West North Avenue. Big ups to Hogan and to Westmore for the 28 million. But after all of these years as a Democrat, they're just putting money on West North Avenue. That's a goddamn shame.
Well, my only point, Donnie and Mike, is that each party, there is no party that's advocate for black people.
None.
There is none. We got to like you said, Donnie, tell our own story, create our own message, man. Because when they create our story, as they steal our stuff and hide our stuff that they stole in the story that they weave, right? Because that's why they weave the story of Africa, so that they can hide all that they stole. You know what I'm saying? And what we cannot allow them to do is continue to steal our soul, our soul. You know, particularly us as older people that need to leave something for these younger people who are so disenfranchised as a result of us. They realize that we the crack mamas and crack daddies, and they were maybe formerly the crack babies. And many of them have come back as a result of that and have their own stories to tell. And now all of a sudden we want to go out as heroes. You know what I'm saying? You know, what's our real place in our society, particularly our demographics of Black people? Mike, Donnie, and Mike. Look at us, man. We're all in the same sort of, you know, class, you know, of people in time, 50s, 60s. It's time to pass it on. We can't make up for the guilt associated for this 80s and 90s when we let our people down. We have to own some of our mistakes, but we don't have to continue to live in it, you know?
Mike, thank you for supporting this channel. We wouldn't be here if it
Always.
wasn't you and your benevolence. But I'm also proud of how we've been able to grow some covert activities, some other activities. But we keep on building forward. We've been able to do awards in Atlanta thanks to you, including your daughter. How is she doing, by the way, the Black Wall Street?
I just talked to her yesterday, Donnie. She asked about you a few weeks ago, and I told her you and I still stay plugged in. But that daughter, Myra, I'm very proud of, is having twins. She's keeping the Black community populated all on her own. So her and her partner with their 5 kids, man, and you know, trying to get her back up here in Maryland. Atlanta's a wonderful place, man. But when you got 5, we want to have that village and be part of that family. But she's doing fine, man. Bottom line, she's pregnant with twins, 1 boy, 1 girl.
I gotta share this with you, Mike. You just talked about populating the Black community. How many of us know the history of Planned Parenthood?
What's the racist woman who
Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger, right?
Black women. You want to know your history? Look up Margaret Sanger, Sanger.
That was her genocide.
If you read her story, you will be pissed off too.
And who was the health commissioner from Baltimore that went up there to be president of that? What's the Asian woman's name that was the Baltimore City health commissioner? Everybody thought was popular. She went up to Planned Parenthood. So did she know the history as she served the community of Black people? And now I can't reach her because she's at GW. She's doing this, CNN. But she left Baltimore to go be president of Planned Parenthood.
The founder said this. My founder said that Black people are like weeds that need to be exterminated, but we get it all twisted.
Yeah, we're gonna help you. It's about the genocide, man. It's wonderful to see these snowflakes, Mike Randolph. I know you don't have none in Florida. I'm sitting here, Mike Randolph, looking at snowflakes out my window, brother. You missed that? You miss snowflakes, Mike? You on mute, my brother.
Oh, my bad. He had a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I do miss snow. I tell you, that's one of the things that I miss the most is the snow. And I say it, not having to work in it, but play in it. But I really do miss that. And a lot of people in Florida never experienced snow before, other than on TV.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing to see. But you know, I miss that warm weather down in Tampa. Although I'll see you next week.
Hey, Mike, I just want to put a plug in for this big event, the New Year event, the Black Wall Street New Year Empowerment Summit. I have you're on a panel. Bob DeShields is on this panel. We've got so much talent. Let me just give you a quick rundown of some of the names involved. Well, it looks like this is going to be a minute. But we got Bob DeShields. We got Chrissy Thornton, who we had on yesterday. She's the head of Associated Black Charities. We're going to recognize her with a Black Wall Street Award. Diane Bell McCoy is going to be there. You're on the panel discussing regional economic development. And Ricky Smith is the moderator. For those that don't know, the black man that runs BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport is a black man. How many of you knew that? How many of you people knew that a black man runs the airport? And this is his second tour of duty. And we're going to have a Black Wall Street Awards out there January 30th. But right now we're plugging January 4th, Sankofa Museum. Just go to Black Wall Street Summit 2025.eventbrite.com. Mike, did you say you're only doing a couple more shows? Did my ears deceive me?
Yeah, our last show on Wake Up Baltimore is the 30th of December, and our 60 Minutes in Black America is the 5th of January. It'll be our last show. So let's put it this way. We're sunsetting, and as I mentioned, Donnie, you said it so clearly earlier that it's time for us to pass stuff on. You know what I'm saying? And what does that look like in terms of engaging some younger people to share their voice so that they can hear each other and possibly hear us, because we've been so prominent in the foreground that we haven't allowed them to have a voice. So I'm hoping to work through that. But it's been wonderful. And it's only a result of working with you, man. We started this during the pandemic. Remember?
I got to ask you both. Let's start with you, Mike Randolph. What are your thoughts on AI? Because you always posing questions while we doing interviews. Michael Randolph, what do you think of AI?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I actually did an hour and a half presentation on AI and the different stages of AI. My understanding of AI is that it's going to change the world, specifically in poor African American communities. It's going to give us access to things we normally wouldn't be able to do. You know, Donnie, that the public school system is failing us. What if that child is able to sit in front of the computer, and that computer will specialize a program for that child and get that child ahead? That's one example of AI. But I'm going to send you my piece on AI. It's about an hour and a half, and it's going to floor you related to the different levels of AI, as well as the Web3.
How about you, Mike Haney? What are your thoughts
Yeah,
on
well,
AI?
I got to tell you, Donnie, you know, we can no longer be afraid of that which we don't understand. I learned that when I was in Dubai. And man, I said, wow, on Tuesday when I had to get this proposal out quickly, and Adobe said, do you want to use AI? Oh my. It kicked it out, it segregated it, it pulled information out, it did the proposal. I was stunned. So I didn't understand what it meant and what it could do, but to what Michael hopefully will educate me to what he understands about it, I'm not going to be intimidated or afraid, right? We always speak quickly, and I won't say I always speak quickly to that which I don't understand. And I took a moment to understand it in a minute of need. And so I'm excited, man, but I trust and believe in that which you all tell me. And you all have done research, and that's what we have to continue to do, man. We got to continue, as Black media does, tell stories, our story, other stories, in a manner in which we can trust where it's coming from, right? So we have to continue to investigate and invest in AI and other sources that we're not comfortable with, including Donald Trump and his administration, so that we can benefit with our communities, man.
I got to tell you, Mike, we have on this show and on Be More News some work by David Byrd. He's a leading Black Republican. I've
heard of David Byrd. That's right, man. We got to do it, particularly after this week with what Joe Biden has done. You know, if that was a belief check for us, and folks, take a look at it. Take a look at it. Hopefully, Donnie next week talks about what Joe Biden has done going out the door. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. And in 1993, Joe Biden told us who he was. And if he's all in the best that this party has to offer, and hey, maybe Westmore is on the horizon. Joe Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, came out yesterday and said what Joe Biden did was atrocious. we better investigate and get some things together ourselves and stop being led as blind people.
And we can't always trust our black elected officials. Some of them have drank too much of the Kool-Aid.
Well, you're right, Donnie. Some of them have much invested or much on them. So either they buy you or you sell yourself. That's what happens, man.
That'll have to be all. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Let's go to Mike Randolph. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nah, just happy New Year's and happy holidays. And I believe that this thing with Trump is going to unite us as black people more than anything else.
Good deal. Mike Haney, you got the final word.
Hey, let's just love each other, man. It's okay to tell each other we love each other. We don't have to like each other. God commands that we love each other, man. Let's express that love and kindness and a kind word, which costs us nothing, particularly during this time of year. And hopefully it just translates into the new year. Thanks, Donnie.
No Christ, no Christmas. No Christ, no Christmas. If you ain't got no Christ, you ain't got no Christmas. And also, get some ginger in your life. We got to get back to nature. We got to get back to get some ginger root, peel off the skin, slice it real fine, some lemon, some honey, and sip on it. You sleep like a baby. Good morning, world.